What's up, Taiwan? I'm Tiffany Wong with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is bracing for impact as Super Typhoon Krathon approaches from the southwest. President Lai Ching-te is urging citizens to stay alert and avoid traveling to mountainous regions. Krathon has been growing in strength as it makes a rare swing around towards Taiwan's west coast. The storm is expected to make landfall on Wednesday morning, bringing with it potentially deadly winds and rain. Our reporter Rick Glowert is live for us in southern Taiwan.
This is Fangliao in southwest Taiwan, and it's just a little bit north of here that Typhoon Krathon is expected to make landfall over the next few hours. But as you can see, the weather is already deteriorating here. The waves here reaching heights of 2 to 3 meters. Across the county, there's a public holiday, schools, businesses are closing. And the Coast Guard here are reminding citizens that there is a sea warning in place and that it is dangerous to be near the sea. Elsewhere in the county, in mountainous regions, there's already reports of flooding and landslides. That's affecting the people that are living there. There's hundreds of people have been evacuated. We went to a relief center where some people have had to spend the night outside of their homes.
目前大概17个民众，然后因为我们这个地方，在这里的民众刚好就是在我们那里有一个区域。 那里有一条溪，然后如果下大雨的时候，它是属于我们一个土石流的浅湿区域，怕如果雨势太大，怕会有土石流发生。
我们在这边比较放心，有电视报告我们可以看着，我们就放心。风大雨大都可以和大家在一起，没有关系。
So Typhoon Krathon is currently lingering just off the coast of Taiwan here, and it's expected to slowly move towards this area over the next few hours. Of course, Taiwan is no stranger to typhoons, but what makes this one rare is both its intensity, it can be considered what in hurricane terms a category 4, and also its direction. It's coming from the southwest. So communities here preparing, bracing themselves for what could well be a once-in-a-generation storm.
Thank you, Rick. Stay safe out there. A Coast Guard helicopter has pulled 6 people off a cargo ship in danger of sinking off Taiwan's southeast coast. They are now scrambling to rescue the remaining 13 crews still on board the Barbados-registered vessel. The crew sent out an early SOS early Tuesday morning when their ship began to take on water and list to one side in rough seas caused by Super Typhoon Krathon. Eastern Taiwan is also heavily affected by Krathon, with rail services suspended in the eastern counties of Taitung and Hualien. Heavy rains and landslides had already partially closed rail lines on Monday. Transportation officials have also closed at least 15 bridges or road sections. Hualien and Taitung officials are urging people to stay at home and brace for continued rain and winds, canceling classes and all non-essential work. Taiwan has criticized Chinese President Xi Jinping for calling Taiwan a sacred territory of China. Xi made the comments at a speech ahead of today's 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, where he claimed that unification with Taiwan is inevitable. Following this is our reporter Joyce Zeng, joining us now live in Taipei. Joyce, how has Taiwan responded?
Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, which is the main federal office that handles matters with China, quickly denounced Chinese President Xi Jinping's claims that Taiwan is a sacred part of China connected by blood, and that what he calls separatist activities supporting independence must be opposed. Here you're seeing a translated excerpt of the council's statement where they reminded the Chinese president that Taiwan has never been a part of the People's Republic of China, calling this an objective fact. And that Beijing's One China principle is something that's been long rejected by the majority of the Taiwanese people. Now, in Xi's speech, he also grouped Taiwan with Hong Kong and Macau, alluding to his vision for China.
实现中华民族伟大复兴，是包括香港同胞、澳门同胞、 台湾同胞在内的全体中华儿女的共同愿望。
Again, this is a position that Taiwan has continually rejected. The Mainland Affairs Council also referring back to Taiwan's president Lai Ching-te's inauguration speech, where he called on China to respect the choices of the Taiwanese people under the principle of parity and to choose dialogue over confrontation. Tiffany?
And Joyce, this isn't the first time that Xi Jinping has made such claims. Are there any differences this time around?
Right, as you say, this is not the first time Xi Jinping is stating this position. There is a long shared history between the two countries, but they are very different. There's the self-ruled democracy that is Taiwan, whose official name is Republic of China, and the Communist People's Republic of China, whose government has never ruled over Taiwan. Clearly, Xi sees this very differently and has said that he's willing to realize his vision through military force. Now, Xi's speech comes at a time of internal pressures for China. It's trying to turn around an economic slump with an unprecedented stimulus package. But these internal issues haven't seemed to slow down its claims over Taiwan. Taiwan's defense ministry was recently put on alert after detecting multiple waves of missile firings from deep within China, and also after a rare Chinese test launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile into international waters. So again, Xi's speech coming at a time of heightened tensions, but also pressure for China to exert its dominance. Tiffany.
Thank you, Joyce. That was Joyce Zheng live for us in Taipei. For more on China's National Day, our reporter Louise Watt spoke to Steve Vines, an author and former journalist in Hong Kong.
75 years is a big anniversary for China, the biggest since its 50th in 1999. How has the atmosphere changed since that time?
I'd say it's changed really considerably. First of all, China has become a country which has, in a sense, both advanced into the world and retreated from the world. What do I mean by that? In the period before, China was opening up to the rest of the world. It was becoming a big economic power. It was playing perhaps less of a diplomatic role, but a very important role, at least economically. Now what's happened is China is playing a much bigger diplomatic role, and because of the aggressiveness of its diplomacy, because of the aggressive nature of, in fact, of even its diplomats, China is becoming a much more polarizing place, and a lot of the goodwill that was shown towards the PRC has dissipated. Internally, of course, China has become a much more authoritarian government. I mean, people always thought that under the Chinese Communist Party it would be authoritarian, but under Xi Jinping, who assumed power in 2012, the clock has been turned back, and it is much more repressive than it was in the earlier period.
Given Xi's governance, what might we expect from the coming 25 years?
That's always a really hard question, because 25 years, A, is a long time, and B, the future is always unknown. But I think the direction of travel is very clear. China is very keen to assert its prominence. I don't think globally in the way that some people imagine. I think it's mainly concerned with the wider East Asia region. And of course, there's always the threat that it may do something really violent, which would be the invasion of Taiwan, which will be a game changer in every possible way. Internally, I think China is now facing very profound pressures. The economy is no longer as strong as it was. The possibility of strains emerging within the Chinese community are much greater. Massive youth unemployment, massive problems with housing and things like that. So that, you know, this is going to be a very difficult period. China looks very strong, and in some ways it is very strong, but it faces these very challenging problems.
That was Steve Vines, an author and former journalist in Hong Kong. Japan is headed to the polls this month, and the new head of its ruling party is expected to win. As voters weigh the prospect of having Ishiba Shigeru as their next leader, analysts wonder what his victory will mean for the rest of the world. John Van Trieste reports.
Evening's fallen in Tokyo. Commuters are heading home, and people are headed out for a night on the town. Everyone passing through this lively part of the city have something in common: the chance to vote for Japan's next leader on October 27th. It was a close race, but last week, the country's ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, picked former Defense Minister Ishiba Shigeru as its next leader. As expected, Ishiba has called a general election, the final hurdle between him and the title of Prime Minister.
新政権はできる限り早期に国民の審判を受けることが重要であると考えており、諸条件が整えば10月27日に解散総選挙を行いたいと考えております。
The LDP has governed Japan almost uninterrupted since its founding in the 1950s, meaning Ishiba is almost guaranteed to win. But that doesn't mean the party is universally loved. Some party members have been involved in scandals, whether through controversial ties to organized religion or financial kickbacks. For some on the street, it's all been too much.
正直、そこまで良くなくて、ちゃんと全部包み隠さず、公開してくれてる感じがしないから、ちょっと不信っていうか、あまり信じきれる感じではないですね。
But others find Ishiba, with his rural roots, a refreshing change from the urban insiders that often rule the country.
石破さん、いいんじゃないですか。やっぱり地方出身なんで、やっぱり鳥取県だっけかな、あっちの方の出身なんで、地方の人の大変さよくわかるんで、だから俺はやっぱり都会から出た人より地方、そういう人をやっぱり応援したいですね。
Still others want to know more about Ishiba and his views.
野田さんとね、やっぱりちょっとしっかり討論してもらいたいですね。まず。そうすればやっぱり石破さんの考えもまた一つ出てくるでしょうし、はっきりとね、国民の前で宣言するということにもなりますし。
Although polls show that Japanese voters are mostly concerned with domestic issues, Ishiba will inherit a tough international situation. The U.S. presidential election is just around the corner, and Tokyo-Beijing relations are souring, with Chinese incursions in the air and on the sea. Japan is also upset China didn't inform it before testing a ballistic missile last week. Analysts don't see any major shifts ahead.
中国側も慎重にそれを見極めてくると思います。つまり石破さんの外交姿勢がどうなのかということで、安心はしてないですけれども、多少の警戒は持っていると思いますけれども、直ちに大きな警戒感まではいかないんじゃないかというふうに思うんですね。
But Ishiba will have the task of staying the course in one of the world's most volatile regions, and voters will be watching to see how well he does once in office. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Protesters marched in London over the weekend to support Taiwan's inclusion in the United Nations. The demonstration drew attention from passers-by and included participants from the Hong Kong, Uyghur, Tibetan, and Chinese communities. They also protested China's interpretation of UN Resolution 2758, which led to Taiwan's 1971 expulsion from the global body.
中国共产党恶意曲解2758号释字，联合国的2758号释字，然后长期压迫台湾在国际上的地位。然后我们需要号召台湾人站出来，然后让英国国会也重视这个议题。
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we've got more live shots of Super Typhoon Krathon's effects down in Kending National Park. I'm Tiffany Wong. Take care and see you next time.
For more stories from here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and around the world, make sure to visit us on social media.